So in this example, we're going to make yet another amortization table or amortization plan, whichever term you prefer. And this time we're going to be doing variable amortization. So in variable amortization, here's a couple key points to remember. The payment plan has different periods and also different amortizations to capital, so neither of those are necessarily fixed. And it's necessary to calculate the exact number of days of each period. They can be either commercial or legal. So in commercial, we just do a 360-day year, versus in legal, we would do a 365-day year. So that's the difference there. So let's go ahead and read this example and start this amortization table. A credit union has granted a loan at an interest rate of 8% per annum, disbursed on March 12, 2022, and the following calendar payments to capital. So it looks like on April 12th of 2022, a $3,000 capital payment is made, meaning that $3,000 is the amount of capital paid off from this loan. Then we have on May 12th of 2022, $3,250, then $2,750, then $3,000, and then $5,000. Then it asks, develop an amortization plan with commercial interest and exact calculation of the number of days. If the loan is to be paid off on August 12th, 2022, how much was the original loan for? Okay, so before we even develop that amortization plan, how can we answer the question of how much the original loan was for? Well, basically, it looks like here we make, here they tell us all the capital payments, right? They tell us that the first capital payment pays $3,000 towards the capital, then $3,250, then $2,750, then $3,000, and then $5,000. So if we add up all those amounts, that is going to tell us not the total amount that we have to pay back, because of course these payments don't account for interest, but it's going to tell us the present value. It's going to tell us how much the original loan was for. And if I add up all these things, I get a total of $17,000. So therefore, if we made $17,000 worth of capital payments, then that means that $17,000 was how much we originally took out for this loan. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my amortization table here. So I'm going to write down the date and then the number of days and then the balance of the loan and then the capital and then the interest and then the capital plus interest. So very similar columns to what we normally have. The only difference here is instead of just putting a number of years, here we have to put the exact number of days when it does come to a variable amortization in general. So that's why we're doing that. Okay. There we go. Excellent. All right, so the first date that we're going to put on here is going to be the day of the first payment. So the day of the first payment was April 12th of 2022. So that's going to be 04/12/22. Then we have May 12th, so 5th month, 12th, 2022. Then 6th month, 12, 2022. Then 7th month, 12, 22. Then 8th month, which is August, and that is the last day as well. That's the day when everything gets all paid off. Then we have to put the number of days. So what's the number of days between March 12th, which is when the loan was taken out, and April 12th? Well, let's think about that. That's either going to be 30 or 31. There are 31 days in March. So since March does have that extra day, I'm going to put 31 here for the number of days. Then from April 12th to May 12th, April only has 30 days. So therefore, I'm going to write 30. Then then from May 12th to June 12th, there would be 31 days. From June 12th to July 12th, 30 again, I believe. And then from July 12th to August 12th, well, July definitely has 31 days, that's for sure. So I'm going to put 31. Okay, so there we go. We've now put the different amounts of time between and this is the amount of time between the last payment, right? Between now and the last time the payment was made and the date that it's, well, not now technically, but the date that is showing here at any given time. Okay, so we also know that the first loan balance, if we add all these things up, is $17,000. So I'm also going to write that down, that the balance originally is $17,000. We also know the amount of capital initially, right? We know that the capital that was paid off in the first payment was $3,000. Then we know that therefore the balance is $3,000 less. So $17,000 minus $3,000 is going to be $14,000. So we only owe $14,000 left. Then we make another payment where $3,250 of that payment is going to capital. So then we subtract that from 14,000. So 14,000 minus 3,250 is going to give us $10,750 left on our loan. Then we pay another $2,750 towards the principal in the next payment. So therefore, 2,750, we can subtract. That means we only have 8,000 left on the actual balance to pay off at that point. Then the next payment, and by the way, I'm just reading from here, from the question. So here we have 3,000, so then there's 5,000 left to be paid off. And then in that last time, we do pay off that full 5,000. And so there we go. That's the balance and capital part. Now we need to figure out how much interest is paid each time. So to find the amounts of interest, it's going to be slightly more work, but not too bad, to be honest, which is good. And then capital plus interest, we just have to add two numbers. We just have to add whatever we find for interest in each column to whatever the capital was. And that's going to be the capital plus interest column, which is the actual payment that the person makes. Because every time the person makes a payment, some of that is going to capital, and then the rest is going to interest. So that's just adding up two numbers. So to do the first one, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the yearly. So I'm going to start with 17,000 times 8%, which is going to give me 1,360. Now that said, is this taken out for that full amount of time? Well, no, it isn't. It's taken out for 31 days, not for a full year. So therefore, we don't owe the full $1,360. We only owe a small fraction of that because 31 days is not even close to a full year. And then it also mentions here that we're doing commercial interest. In commercial interest, we just simplify it to a 360-day year. I recognize that's not accurate technically. I know technically there's 365 days in a year and 366 in a leap year. But just for simplicity's sake, when we are doing commercial interest, we act as though there are it's a 360-day year and that every month has 30 days, even though that's really just the approximate truth. That's not quite right. So then I'm going to take this number that I got by multiplying 17,000 by 8%, which is 1,360. And I'm going to multiply it by 31, since that's the number of days right here. And then I'm going to divide it by 360 and hit equals. And that gives me $117.11 of interest that we pay on that first payment. Now let's do the same thing for the second one. So for the second one, we only have a balance of 14,000. I'm going to multiply that by 8% to get 1,120. Then I'm going to multiply by 30 days and divide by 360. So, right, because this time it's only 30 days for the next one. So therefore, the interest we pay here is only $93.33. Okay, then what about payment number 3? We're back up to 31 days. Here we have $10,750 of balance. We're going to multiply that by 8% and then multiply that by 31 equals, and then divide that by 360, and we get $74.06. So $74.06. Okay, then we're going to do the next row, which is $8,000, and multiply that by 8%, and then multiply that by 30 days this time, because in this row it's just 30 days, divide by 360 days because of commercial interest, and then the interest we pay here is $53.33. And then last but not least, actually I should scroll down here so you can see that. Last but not least, we have $5,000 left on the balance. We're going to multiply that by 8% to get 400. multiply that by 31 and divide by 360, we get $34.44, right? So the reason these interest amounts seem so low in comparison to the capital is because we're not making payments every year, we're making payments every single month. And so since we're making more frequent payments, there's not that much time in a month for as much compound interest to accumulate, right? The bank can't charge us the same amount if we're just borrowing things for a few months versus if we're borrowing things for a few years from them. The less time we borrow for, the less interest they should charge us. Then what I'm going to do is add up the capital plus interest, and that's going to tell me the full payment that I would need to make each time. So on April 12th of 2022, I would need to make a payment of $3,117.11, where $3,000 of that is going towards paying off $3,000 of my balance, and the other $117.11 is just interest. So in other words, the fee that the bank is charging me because I am borrowing $17,000 of their money, right? A month before this, I presumably got this much money in my account in order to do whatever I was going to do with that money. I'm not sure. Then for the next one, we have $3,250 was paid off in capital plus $93.33 in interest is $3,343.33. Then we have $2,750 plus $74.06, which is going to be a total payment of $2,824.06. Then in the next one, we have $3,000 again plus $53.33. So that's $3,053.33 for the overall payment. And then for the last one, $5,034.44. So there we go. So then if I add up all the capital, it should add up to $17,000. So that's the last thing I should do is, for my amortization table, is add up all this, that the total capital will be paid off. The total interest, that's going to be $117.11 plus $93.33 plus $74.06 plus $53.33 plus $34.44. That is overall $372.27. So overall, the capital plus the interest is $17,000, $3,372.27. So the total interest that was paid was only $372.27. And why was it only this much, even though we borrowed $17,000? Well, that's because we paid it off very, very, very quickly, right? We only took out this loan in March of 2022, and by like August of 2022, it was paid off. So that really goes to show you that if you pay off your loans really quickly, then you're not going to end up paying nearly as much interest as you would have had to pay if we dragged this loan out for a longer time and gave interest more time to build. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those down in the comments section, and we'll see you for the next one.